few weeks ago, I was sitting in my living room watching TV by myself. I don't have any friends to hang out with or talk to, so this is what I'm stuck doing day in and day out. Anyways, as I was watching, I kept getting hit with the same ad for a mobile game called Squad Busters. I know a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. After all, Apple was literally shoving it down our throats. Pause. Yet, somehow, seeing this ad really got me thinking, not about the game in particular, but more so about the developers, Supercell. In my time, I've played a lot of mobile games, and I mean a lot. I've tried the likes of Jetpack Joyride, Cut the Rope, Doodle Jump, Candy Crush, Temple Run, Angry Birds, Dokkan Battle, Subway Surfers, PUBG, and even Pokemon Go. But of all those mobile games and developers out there, the only ones I find myself coming back to are those of Supercell. Whether it be the base building and pillaging of something like Clash of Clans, or a fight to the death against others in Brawl Stars, they do an amazing job of drawing players in. Kinda like how bugs are drawn in bug lights.
No! Harry, no! Don't look at the light!
I can't help it. It's so beautiful.
On top of that, Supercell also does things like listen to their community, drop well-developed and meaningful games that aren't just useless cash grabs, and attempt to steer away from pay-to-win gameplay loops. I know, that sounds like the bare minimum, but you'd be surprised. These are only a handful of the reasons that Supercell does and will continue to reign as king of mobile games. But before I get ahead of myself, let's backtrack a little. Now, I'm going to make a not-so-bold assumption that all of you have heard of Supercell. However, even though you've heard of them or played their games, I bet you know almost nothing about the actual company. So let me hit you with some knowledge.
What I like more than this Lamborghini? Knowledge.
Supercell is a Finnish mobile game development company founded back in 2010 by these two guys. They're based out of a place known as Helsinki? Since their founding back in 2010, they've only released 6 games. Yes, you heard me right. In 14 years, they've only released 6 total games. But there's probably a reason that they've dropped so little. They drop well-developed and meaningful games that aren't just useless cash grabs. On their website, they actually have a whole section dedicated to talking about the history of the company. And unsurprisingly, it's actually incredibly interesting. However, if I'm being completely honest, there's literally a 0% chance that I read this whole thing to you, but I'll give you the SparkNotes version. For any of you that don't know what SparkNotes is, you make me worry about the future. Starting from the top, the two founders, these guys, remember? I just mentioned them. Come on, keep up. Anyways, they founded Supercell on the idea of giving developers and teams independence to decide what kind of games they make and how they choose to make them. I know what you're thinking.
No way, a company that actually lets developers think independently?
Yeah, it's a crazy concept, but believe it or not, some companies actually care about their developers. However, they do have one rule that they ask all developers to follow. It's actually a crazy rule that's usually a deal breaker for a lot of developers that want to work there. They ask all their developers to answer one singular question. Are we building something that could be important? Evil, I know. I can almost hear your gasp of shock. They make sure their developers aren't just making tasteless cash grabs. Absolute insanity, especially from a mobile game company. Unlike a lot of other mobile game companies, Supercell puts a lot of time and effort into creating their games. They don't just steal popular games and create a worse version of them on mobile to sell to consumers, or mass-produce pay-to-win games. In their time, they've worked on and scrapped many games just because it wasn't what they wanted for themselves or the company. And I'm not talking about scrapping them early. Oh, no. Multiple times throughout their history, they developed games and released them in a beta before scrapping them. Games like Pets vs. Orcs, Battle Buddies, and a few other games that I guarantee you've never heard of. What other mobile game developers and publishers, hell, what developers and publishers at all are going to completely scrap a game that made it all the way to beta just because it wasn't something they were proud of? Let me answer that for you. None of them. Every single other company is just going to release that game to the public and hope they sucker enough people into either buying the game or the in-app purchases so they make a little bit of profit on it. But not Supercell. The only games they release are ones that they have put their heart and soul into creating for everyone to enjoy. I mean, let's take a look at one of Supercell's first games. Just a small little game that you might have heard of called Clash of Clans. After being released in 2012, over 10 years ago, it continues to draw millions of players daily. That's right, millions of players daily. And it deserves every single player. Back in 2012, it helped revolutionize strategy games with its combination of base building, troop choices, goofy design, and most importantly, community engagement. Oh, why is community engagement the most important part, you ask? I hope you'd be able to figure that one out on your own, but I guess I'll give you a quick lesson. Outside of Supercell's exceptional game quality, they distinguish themselves as the king of mobile games through a few different ways. Long-term commitment to game support, balanced monetization, and of course, community engagement. Let's start with the latter. Unlike many other mobile game companies and developers, a cornerstone of Supercell's entire business is their pride in their community engagement. While other developers might limit their interactions to a few announcements about the game or updates, Supercell takes it to a whole other level. They actively seek player feedback and concerns and often incorporate community suggestions into their updates and patches. Whether it be through Reddit, social media, they are in their community day in and day out trying to get as much feedback as they can. On top of just the feedback, they also foster the community by organizing events for their players to enjoy and helping develop and create a competitive scene for 2 of their games. What other mobile game developers are putting in this much time and effort to help develop an amazing relationship with their community? Because it's not any of these bums.
Fuck that guy.
Alright, now if everyone will go ahead and turn their textbooks to chapter 7, page 16, you'll find the next topic of discussion. Oh wait, sorry, this isn't a real class. You're here because you actually want to be. You don't have a useless textbook. Anyways, next is long-term commitment. Remember earlier when I was talking about how they've only released 6 games since they opened back in 2010? For the sake of a flashback, I'm going to assume you do. And if you don't, just rewatch the video because you clearly weren't paying attention. The reason Supercell has been so successful with this strategy is their unwavering commitment to support and develop their games long after launch. Each of their 6 games receive updates, new content, and enhancements to this day. And because of this, it allows them to prioritize sustained player engagement rather than just short-term monetization strategies. This dedication not only boosts the player experience, but also develops Supercell's reputation. They will never be known as the company that releases tasteless cash grabs, but rather the company that will release quality games and continue to grow and nurture them for years to come. This leads us into the last point I have marked for today's lesson: balanced monetization. So before I finish up class, I just want to say that I actually have a reason for bringing up this point last, and that's because not everyone is going to agree with me on this. I know, shocker. I, and presumptuously a lot of other people, view the monetization as one that enhances the experience of Supercell's games, but doesn't fall into the territory of pay to win. I know a lot of you are now like this guy.
I'm extremely confused.
So let me explain. In their games, spending money typically offers something like cosmetic items, convenient features, or faster progression. However, it does not give you a better chance of victory. For example, in Clash of Clans, players can purchase gems and use them to bypass the upgrade times, but this doesn't translate to power. Due to the matchmaking system, no matter how many gems you spend or how fast you progress, you will always be paired against people of similar power, thus keeping it fair and balanced. Now, I know all the haters that have made it this far thinking,
Oh, you're just glazing. There's so many negatives to Supercell. They're not a good company at all.
okay, then let's talk about the negatives. Alright, I have to take a pause here. I'm going to be 100% honest with you right now. I was going to sit here and defend Supercell from all the negatives that people talk and complain about, but I've decided I'm not going to do that. At the end of the day, people are going to complain and criticize whatever they want, and if that's what they choose to do, then so be it. Who am I to stop them? However, I will say this. Whether you believe what I said and agree with me, or think everything I said is a lie and want to see me hang for my opinions, at the end of the day, it's just video games. Hell, it's mobile video games, which is arguably even worse. So, whether you believe me or not, just know I have hundreds, if not thousands of hours of my life put into a vast amount of different mobile games. But the only company's games I find myself coming back to time and time again are Supercell's, which is why I believe Supercell is the king of mobile games. Alright, real quick, I just wanted to hop on here and say that I know that I've been gone for a little bit, but realistically, I was just incredibly burnt out. Between this and everything else I have going on in my life, I just didn't really have the time or the energy that I needed to make good content for you guys, so I just didn't. But I'm back now, and I'm going to continue to keep putting out content, so stay on the lookout. Anyways, thanks for watching, and if you made it this far, go ahead and drop a sub. It really helps the channel out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.